should, but I'm on this little state laptop, and it's divided.
Thank you. Okay, so once again, we'll start in just a moment. If I could have everybody stand, please, and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce our Spanish interpreter. Her name is Tanya de Paz. So if anybody needs a Spanish interpreter, maybe you could say it in Spanish. Tanya?
Buenas tardes, soy la intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita intérprete, por favor, déjeme saber.
In from Casa Grande location, the interpreter is Miriam Ispudo. If anybody needs an interpreter at this location, please let me know. I'll be sitting in the back of the room, providing devices for you to obtain. Hola, mi nombre es Miriam Ispudo. Soy intérprete de la localidad de Casa Grande. Si alguien necesita interpretación, por favor, venga a la localidad de la habitación. Estaré en la parte de atrás para proveer equipo si usted así lo necesita. Thank you. Gracias.
Sierra Vista.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Madam Chair. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Alex, we
Translator?
can.
Your translator?
Okay. Yes, I've already introduced her, but our translator is in the back of the room. If anyone needs an interpreter, please go to her. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. I now call to order the public hearing. Thank you for being here. We ask that you follow the Arizona Department of Health guidelines in regards to COVID-19. If you're not fully vaccinated, you should wear a mask in a public space. If you would like to participate from home, each of these meetings is being streamed through WebEx, YouTube, and our social media channels. They're also being recorded and posted on our website at irc.az.gov. If you would like to make a public comment, you may do so by signing in with the staff and filling out a public comment card. We have an American Sign Language interpreter joining us virtually and a transcriptionist who will be transcribing every meeting. Please speak slowly and clearly so we have a clear record of your input. At this time, we will introduce ourselves. My name is Shireen Lerner. I am one of the Democrat representatives on the commission, and I represent Maricopa County.
Do we need both mics? I need that one too. Sorry. Hi, my name is Erica Newberg. I'm the chairwoman, and I live in Chandler from Maricopa County.
And do we have one of our commissioners, Commissioner Meal?
My name is David Meal, and I'm a commissioner from Pima County. Glad to be here.
Okay. At this time, I'd also like to allow our mapping team and legal team and staff to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Flahan. I'm from Vista. I am the project manager for our mapping team.
Hi, I'm Ivy Beller-Sikansky. I'm from National Demographics Corporation, and I'm one of the demographers.
Sorry for all the moving things around. At this point, we're going to move to agenda item 2, where we will have a presentation on the process And first up is a representative from our legal team. I will have him introduce himself.
Thank you, Commissioner Lerner. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me actually move it a little closer. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay, perfect. My name is Roy Herrera. I am one of the legal counsel for the Independent Redistricting Commission. Also with me is one of my co-counsels, Brett Johnson, from the law firm of Snell and Wilmer. So first of all, welcome everyone to this now second meeting of the Grid Map public meeting schedule. I'm going to go through a bit of the history and purpose of the Arizona Redistricting Commission, and then we'll turn it over to the mapping team to talk about how we're receiving public input. So first off, the question is, why are we here? We are here obviously because the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission under the Arizona Constitution is charged with drawing our congressional and legislative district lines. But stepping back before that, we are obviously in a period of time where all across the country, all of the states are redistricting. And the reason for that is because the the federal Constitution requires such redistricting. And we have here in the first slide that, under the U.S. Constitution, there's a regular reapportionment of the congressional districts nationwide, but ultimately it is up to the states to decide the process for that redistricting. Now, under Article 1, Section 2, which is the language in the Constitution that requires a census to be undertaken every 10 years, we see the requirement to undertake the census and the use of that census data as the basis for the reapportionment. That's also further explained under the 14th Amendment, which states that representatives in Congress shall be apportioned among the states according to their respective numbers pursuant to the census. Now, how do we redistrict in the state of Arizona? Well, from statehood up until 2000, Arizona did its redistricting via the legislature. That is historically the most common way that states have done redistricting, and certainly a process that is undertaken by other states. But in 2000, the voters of Arizona decided to adopt a different process, which is Prop 106, which created the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission by amending the Arizona Constitution. The purpose of Prop 106, according to the framers of Prop 106, was essentially to end the practice of gerrymandering and improve voter and candidate participation in the electoral process, and of course, attempt to create fair and competitive maps or districts. Now, the Constitution has a calendar. Prop 106 included a calendar of when the commission was supposed to be put together and begin its work. Under the Arizona Constitution, by February 28th of every year that begins with 1, or I should say ends with 1, the commission is supposed to be put together and created. We met that deadline actually by a good period of time as the commission was created before that February date. Now, on the next slide, we describe what the makeup of the commission is. Who is on the commission? Well, again, we turn to the language of Prop 106 and what is now in the Arizona Constitution, which requires that there be 5 members of the Redistricting Commission. There are also further requirements of the makeup of those 5 members. One requirement is that no more than 2 members of the commission can be of the same political party. And then in addition to that, no more than 2 commissioners of that original 4 partisan commissioners can reside in the same county. The 5th commissioner, who is charged as being an independent, is ultimately selected by the 4 partisan commissioners, and that's where we have our independent chairwoman today. You can see here on the slide the current makeup of the commission, the 5 different commissioners, the 2 Democrats, the 2 Republicans, and the independent chairwoman, as well as the geographic location of where they're coming from, which again complies with the Arizona constitutional requirements. So then the question is, how does the commission go about its redistricting? Well, again, we turn to the Arizona Constitution, which sets forth a number of factors that the commissioners have to consider when drawing the lines. There are 6 constitutional goals in the Arizona Constitution for redistricting. The first one is that the districts have to comply with federal law. That is both the United States Constitution as well as the Federal Voting Rights Act. The second is that the congressional districts have to have equal population. The third is that the districts have to be geographically compact and contiguous. The fourth is that district boundaries have to respect communities of interest. Of course, communities of interest is certainly a topic that may be the subject of some of your public comments today. The fifth is that the district lines must use visible geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries, et cetera. And then finally, the sixth factor is that the competitive district should be favored when doing so would not create a significant detriment to the other goals. So those are the 6 factors. I'll turn to the final slide for me, which discusses public involvement. You know, the Commission desires to receive as much public input as possible so that it could use that information as it makes its decisions on redistricting. There's been a number of ways to do that. The first and obvious one is that every Tuesday, the Commission has a regular public meeting. That meeting is watchable on YouTube and other online methods. And then before, during, and after, the public is able to provide public comment to the commissioners for those meetings. In addition to that, prior to the adoption of the grid map, the Commission undertook a listening tour to discuss communities of interest across the state. Through that listening tour, and then now this listening tour, post-grid map, the Commission is asking the public in Arizona to provide input on what they believe are their communities of interest. Of course, the definition of communities of interest is a kind of a large concept, a vague concept, but it comes down to the question of what geographic areas or neighborhoods do you believe should be considered when drawing the draft maps. The calendar on this last bullet point regarding the input, the calendar here I think shows the different stages that the Commission has to go through. The first, of course, is that the public has the ability to submit draft maps and comments on in-progress draft maps prior to the selection of the actual official draft map. That is the stage that we're in now. The Commission has adopted a grid map and is working towards the actual map drawing and the adoption of a draft map. Next, of course, the public could submit proposed revisions and comments after the IRC selects an official draft map. And then there will be an additional comment period after that where the public can submit comments as the Commission nears its final maps. So that is the process that we have undertaken and are going under right now. And I'm going to turn it over to Timmons to describe and tell us how the public can actually provide the information that the Commission is seeking.
Thanks, Roy. So we have some tools that are available to you guys as the public. It's really 4 tools right now. The first one that you've already heard about is a socioeconomic report. We can talk about that in a second slide. Also, community of interest. There's a whole report of it, and we found 182 groups based on the different overlap counts from your feedback on the community of interest survey. The third thing we have is the redistricting system. And that's going to allow you to draw, submit proposed map changes, and the URL is here in that slide that would allow you to get there. Totally free. You can go ahead and create your own account, and that's open to the entire public. The last one we have is our centralized mapping location, which we call the IRC Mapping Hub, and it houses all of our applications and data. It houses the page about the grid maps. It allows you to download the PDFs of them or the actual GIS data, and that is all in that centralized location. On the screen, you've already probably seen this in the community of interest tour, but here's a socioeconomic app. It has 14 different demographic data points. You can see a screen grab on the right side. I'm not going to read every demographic there, but that is on the hub. Same thing with the community of interest report. So what we did is we took all the digital surveys that we got online, 910 of them. We looked for commonalities, for overlaps, and we came up with 182 groups. And it'll allow you to see highest to the lowest ranks. That's online. You can explore it and see through the data and go check it out. The redistricting system. So what are the benefits of our redistricting system? I think the biggest thing for the public is that anybody can create an account. It's free. It's web-based. You got 24/7 access. It allows you to draw your own maps. You can go in there and draw your own maps, and it gives you access to the same data that the Commission has here. So everybody's using a common platform. Again, the URL is sitting there right now. There's also training videos on the IRC Hub that allow you to get started really easily. That is the IRC Hub. That is the URL there. There's a little screen grab there. But I encourage you guys to check that out because as this process progresses and we actually have draft maps and or final maps, that's where they're going to be posted. So I would familiarize myself with this site. So what is it? It is a centralized location like we talked about. It's 24/7 web-based. It has web maps that you can interact with, very similar to Google Maps look and feel. So it'll allow you to go do that. With the grid maps that we have out there, there's actually a section that allow you to put in an address and see what district you would fall in on the grid map. And then the three sections that it's sort of broken down into is the maps and apps, redistricting system page with your training, and the grid map page. So the grid map. So the grid map was adopted by the commission on September 14th, 2021. It started at the Township Median, which is 19th Avenue in the corner of McDowell and Grand, where all those three roads come together. The commission asked us to work in a clock-like manner. So we divided the state up into 4 quadrants, and then we worked through in a clockwise manner, which you can see the output on the screen there for both the congressional and the legislative grid map. If you want more information on the grid, there's a lot more details up there, and that's the URL that you can get there. And that's where you can find all of the data also about the grid map. Demographics and competitive data has actually been posted there, so now you're welcome to see that or even download that. With that, that should be our last slide. I'll turn it back over to Lori.
Before we move on to agenda item 3, I will read the rules of the meeting. Citizens may only speak when recognized by the chair or the presiding officer of the meeting if the chair is absent or has otherwise delegated hearing administration authority. In compliance with Arizona's open meeting law, speakers should confine their statements to the issue on the posted agenda, which is before the commission. Speakers are also requested to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes. In an effort to allow for as many speakers as possible, the commission may adjust the time limits depending on the amount of speakers requesting to be heard. Additionally, speakers are required to follow proper decorum. Speakers must use appropriate language. Foul and or abusive language will not be tolerated. Any speaker failing to follow proper decorum or any other guidelines may be asked to leave. Any breach of the peace or disruption of a commission public hearing may be the cause of report to law enforcement. If someone has already expressed the same sentiment you wish to express, you may say so and your comments will be recorded. This is a nonpartisan meeting. Please do not distribute political material in the meeting room. Opposing viewpoints may be expressed by the citizens present. As a courtesy, citizens are reminded to address their comments to the chair and to the commission and not to the audience present. Please show respect for all speakers and avoid personal comments. Remember, the commission must hear all sides of an issue to make an informed decision.
All right, thank you. We are now going to begin the public comment portion. So will staff read the names of the first speaker and the ones in the queue? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll read the names of the first 3 speakers, and because of the layout of the area, you might want to work your way down as we're the first speaker is going. And by the way, sorry not to have introduced myself. My name is Marie Chapo Camacho. I am one of the community outreach coordinators for the commission. So our first speakers will be Karen Camp, Lori Coe, and Angela Wilford, who is speaking on behalf of President Javier of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Camp. I live in McCormick Ranch, which is in current district, legislative district 23 and congressional district number 6. I moved here from San Francisco 2 years ago and have been very active locally as a board member in my HOA, of which I'm going to be president in 2 weeks, and also as a precinct committee man or committee person. I would like to thank you for your hard and impartial work in setting the new maps for all of us. Since moving to Arizona, I have been concerned that despite our being sort of a picture-perfect purple state, there seem to be several current office holders who provide extreme views that do not really represent the full communities that they were elected to represent. To that end, I am hoping that our legislative district will change and will be set up with the following priorities. Number one, our district needs to be competitive, such that our elected officials truly represent fairly the diversity of our community. Secondly, our district needs to protect the voting power of our minority voters, of whom there are many, in conformance with the U.S. Voting Rights Act and our state constitution. And thirdly, I'd like to make sure that fair districting will ensure that we are all properly represented. I hope that you will prioritize this fairness as you complete your important redistricting work this year. Nothing will be more important. Thank you so much.
Benjamin Disraeli said, "No government can be long secure without a formidable opposition." Chairwoman Newberg and redistricting commissioners, my name is Lori Coe. I live at 9214 Eastwood Drive, Scottsdale, Arizona. I rise today to speak on behalf of myself, a 43-year citizen of the state of Arizona. For the past 20 years, I've lived, shopped, played, and worked in the city of Scottsdale. I served on the Scottsdale Human Relations Commission for 6 years, offering public programs and conversations regarding diversity and advising the mayor and city council as to how Scottsdale can thrive as a welcoming and inclusive city. Currently, I serve on the Scottsdale Community Partners Board. We work along with the city of Scottsdale to fundraise and help staff implement services to the people in our town who are living below the poverty line. Independent redistricting maps protect Arizonans against extremism. Creating fair and competitive voting districts that reflect all communities and that comply with the Voting Rights Act is vital to the growth of our state. In balanced districts, all of us benefit. Candidates compete with ideas and ideals rather than dogma. Voters win when there is competition. When you live in a competitive district and you don't like what your representative is doing, you can vote them out. I am looking forward to living in a state that reflects all of its citizens, where no one is left out or marginalized when it comes to voting. Nothing is more sacred than my right to vote. Even if my candidate of choice loses, I will have the assurance, at least, that I have a seat at the table. Every Arizonan deserves this. Thank you, each of you, for serving on this commission. I appreciate the time and energy you are giving to our community and believe in your mission. We are fortunate to have a nonpartisan approach to creating fair and competitive voting districts, and I sincerely hope that you will be guided by these goals. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Newberg and members of the Redistricting Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to provide feedback on the Commission's Congressional Grid 1 and Legislative Grid Map 4. My name is Angela Williford, and I represent the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, which is just located west, north? I shouldn't have said that. In general, we believe the grid maps are consistent with the Commission's criteria of drawing grids, and they are compact, contiguous, respect communities of interest, and recognize the geographic elements. Specifically, with regards to the Congressional Grid Map 1, the community supports the construction of the grid and is consistent with the principles outlined previous. Second, while we applaud the Commission for its efforts to construct Legislative Grid Map 4, we have a couple of specific recommendations. One, the community would like the Commission to consider including parts of the city of Mesa into legislative districts that is consistent with the principles presented to the Commission. Specifically, the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community requested a legislative district to include parts of Mesa where we have shared interest. One interest in particular is majority of our students attend Mesa Public Schools. Their schools are located in northwestern parts of the city, and we can be specific and provide those schools if need be. Two, conversely, there is little to no commonality with the area of the grid that is north and west of the community. That would include municipalities such as Anthem. We would recommend excluding these areas from a legislative district that would include the community. Three, more specifically, there are two acre parcels of the land located west of McDowell that is part of the community that we would like to be added into the congressional and legislative district map. We had our GIS team go through the boundaries, and there was just that little 2-acre parcel. We can also provide a map if need be. Members of the Commission, we believe these recommendations will meet the criteria of the Commission and hope you will consider these recommendations. We look forward to working with you through this process. And again, our doors are open if you would like to host a meeting within our community, and we will send the logistics over to one of your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a follow-up, just comment, suggestion. You mentioned the importance of school districts, and I think that there are logical boundaries and communities of interest that reside there. Our outreach staff has been reaching out to school superintendents. Mm-hmm. You mentioned your school superintendent. To the extent that we can get school superintendents chiming in with feedback, we welcome that. So thank you.
Definitely, we'll relay the message.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, speakers. And next we'll go to Alex in Sierra Vista.
Thank you, Marie. The first three speakers that we have is State Representative Gail Griffin, County Supervisor Tom Crosby, and Joanne Gasper.
Can you hear me? I don't, the mics, the audience, the audience can't hear. Thank you. I'm Gail Griffin. I am a state representative. However, I'm here as a resident of Cochise County. I want to thank you for coming to Sierra Vista. We made this request in Bisbee, so you were listening. Thank you very much for being here. The grid maps are very interesting. I see areas that are not compact, and I understand this is the beginning of the process. So thank you very much. Cochise County, Greenlee County, and the current portion of Graham County all have similar communities of interest. Those community of interest include ranching, farming, mining, wineries, military, retired military, and most of these areas are represented by electric cooperatives that provide electric service. These issues are communities of interest. Also, Green Valley has a similar retirement community as Sierra Vista, and the eastern portion of Santa Cruz County is very similar with their ranching and wineries as Cochise County is as well. So those are my comments. I want to thank you again, and we'll take advantage of the maps that will be available and submit maps at a later time for you. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Hello, commissioners and chairman. My name's Tom Crosby. I am a supervisor here in Cochise County, and I would like to make a few comments. Progressive dissatisfaction and envy are at the heart of the so-called competitive district debates. Just like with economics, progressives want to be freed from political market forces, unwilling to accept the unpopularity of the progressive political philosophy. They cry that something must be unfair. So, addressing any proposal for a border legislative district, such a district would be the one to be the most likely sympathetic to Mexico, the most likely to have a constituency favoring open borders. Globalist entities refer to what I call the border as the trans-boundary community. In my opinion, the north side of such a proposed border legislative district is what globalist progressives hope will be the de facto new U.S.-Mexico border. The cartel dope industry is estimated to be worth between $13.6 to $49 billion annually. I believe that the strategy of the drug cartels is to infiltrate one county deep into the U.S. And if they can't get the whole county, they'll settle for a border legislative district in the meantime. In the face of the failure of the Mexican government in its fundamental function to protect and defend its own citizens, and because of the corruption necessitating having to reorganize its law enforcement 5 times since the 1980s, and in the wake of the now over 120,000 narco war-related atrocities in Mexico, the cartels are now the ones offering peace and safety for Mexicans instead of the government. In my opinion, we should disregard racial demographics in redistricting because of the destructive and divisive consequences I've outlined today. Meanwhile, those of us that believe in liberty, don't be intimidated by accusations of racism. And when I say we the people, I'm not excluding any of our citizens. And if you believe in liberty, you're one of us. Don't get tired, don't give up. We the people, and we of Southeast Arizona. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And commissioners, I must applaud you because you are facing a very difficult and challenging challenge, if I can be redundant. My name is Joanne Gasper, and I live in Hereford, Arizona. Now, Hereford is kind of interesting because we have a city, but we have no city. It's a rural community. And rural communities are an endangered species today, and the map that is currently being considered divides and conquers and gets rid of rural communities. We have nothing that's similar to Nogales. We don't have anything like Tucson. We are a rural community. We have ranchers, we have farmers, we have the San Pedro Riparian Conservation Area, which does influence us. We have a federal government that is attempting to take water away from us. I don't think people in Tucson have problems with the government, federal government taking their water away, or in Nogales, the federal government taking claim to their water. And we have mining. These are not things that are in Nogales, not things that are in Tucson. We have a wonderful sheriff that has managed to protect our southern border, and I live about 6 miles off of the Mexican border, and it is not uncommon to see illegals stopped on the side of the road by Border Patrol and our Sheriff's Department, and they are to be commended for keeping us safe. These are problems that Tucson doesn't have. So please keep our community of interest together so that we are actually represented and not being overshadowed by more urban areas. So please protect our rural areas and keep Cochise County together.
Thank you very much. I'm going to send it over to Casa Grande, with the first speaker being Mayor Greg Farland on WebEx.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. My name is Craig McFarland. I'm the mayor of the city of Casa Grande. And I just wanted to, first of all, thank the process that we've gone through so far. I believe that the U.S. legislative district that now Pinal County is a piece of is extremely well done. I think it will help our county, at least from our federal representation standpoint. So we like the way that has been set up. So no suggested changes there. And I appreciate the work that's been done to bring this back together. And then secondly, on the local state legislative district, my biggest concern is that the city of Casa Grande is cut right in half, and obviously that does not fit with the item D and E in terms of the constitutional provisions and what should be used to guide the districting. So we will be providing some additional input and mapping for you all. So we will give you that input, but it splits to the Salt River Indian Communities Point. It splits our school districts. We have a high school district and elementary school district. It cuts them right in half. It also cuts my community right in half. And it's obviously not a representative of using our city boundaries as a boundary. So those are my biggest concerns. Just want to make that public and appreciate your efforts and all your work on this. I know it's not easy. So I, again, just want to thank you for all your efforts, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Chair, and members of the commission, we have 3 speakers here in Casa Grande. The first speaker is Neil Carter. The next one is Tony Smith, and then Noel Reck. Neil Carter.
First, thank you to the commission for serving. I know that this is a big process, it takes a lot of your time, and is uncompensated, so thank you. My name is Neil Carter. For full disclosure, I should tell the commission that I am a candidate for State House from what's now District 8, which is obviously changing, and it looks like I'll be in District 15 based on where I live. I want to reiterate what Mayor Craig McFarland of Casa Grande just mentioned. The city of Casa Grande is divided so that those who are north of Cottonwood and east of Pert are in the district with Maricopa, and Maricopa is divided so that those are south of Bolin and west of 347 are in the Casa Grande district. So it seems to me it would be a very easy fix to simply draw the line, for example, along I-10. That would bring those communities into Casa Grande and would not split that city, and you could compensate for the difference in population there by bringing in the couple of communities in Maricopa that therefore wouldn't be separated from their city. So that was one suggestion I wanted to bring up. I do want to congratulate the commission and thank you, because the districts as they're drawn now, I think, are much preferable to how they were 10 years ago, specifically District 8. Very last thing, Santan Valley, although much, much better this go round than it has been, is also split. For example, Circle Cross Ranch is divided along Gary Road. This is a problem that we have over the last 10 years with Santan Valley, where HOAs are split in half, literally along somebody's street, so that you can cross a street neighbor, even though you have the same community pool and everything else. It's in a different district. So this is much better, but along Gary Road there, you're splitting Circle Cross Ranch. It would be much better to run the district boundary along the county line, I would think. Or if not along the county line, then at least along the railroad there. I can see it's on your screen, to include that one community. And if you do need to make up for the population, I remember that former supervisor and former state senator Pete Rios had attended the Florence meeting, and he suggested keeping the copper corridor together, which it isn't. So, for example, you could include those communities in Santan Valley and Pinal County that are taken out, and then give the copper corridor together to the other district, or do vice versa, keep the copper corridor with one district and so on. So it's just some suggestions, but overall, I would reiterate what Mayor Craig Farland said, which is that we're actually very happy. We think this is much an improvement. And again, I really want to thank the commission because I know it's a thankless job and we really do appreciate it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I'd just like to mention, you mentioned population. As people are coming up and speaking, if you're considering changes, I was appreciative of the fact that you recognize that when we move people around, there's a population cap or a population mandate that we have. So as folks are thinking about like the rural areas in particular, please keep that in mind, that we do have some requirements in terms of population size for our legislative and congressional districts. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm Tony Smith, with President and CEO of Pinal Partnership. Pinal Partnership represents over 200 businesses, institutions, utilities, and municipalities within Pinal County. I'm personally pleased with the congressional district grid map. So my comments today will be directed to the legislative district grid map. Pinal County is the only rural county outside the two major metropolitan counties of Maricopa and Pima counties to have major cities within our county split into two legislative districts. The other 12 rural counties all keep their major cities within the same legislative district. The city of Maricopa, Casa Grande, Florence, and Coolidge are all major growth communities in Pinal County, and they are very similar communities of interest. Great effort should be made to keep Pinal County's communities of interest within the same legislative district. My second concern, Madam Chair and Commissioners, is that the grid map for Pinal County shows Casa Grande, City of Maricopa, Florence, and Coolidge with significant parts of their communities in separate legislative districts. Neighborhoods within rural communities shouldn't be divided and represent two separate legislators. This violates item E of the 6 criteria. Madam Chair, Commissioners, my request is that the Independent Redistricting Commission does their best to ensure that the draft and final maps place all of Pinal County's major cities within the same legislative district, and especially do not divide neighborhoods within these communities into separate legislative districts. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you to the Commission for your time and your effort. My name is Noel Reck. I live in Casa Grande. I have 3 concerns and related questions that go along with that. First of all, regarding the census issues, I imagine that it's too late to do anything about the undercount now, but I'm wondering if in the next time that we go around with this, that the Commission could be involved, and so that we don't have these kind of problems in the future, seeing that the impact that the undercount has on this entire process. I'm also in agreement in regard to item E, that Casa Grande should not be split, and I ask that that not be done. I believe that it's very important to seek balance within our districts. As was mentioned by previous speakers, there's just way too much extremism in Arizona today. In regard to the communities of interest, I'm wanting to know to what extent is that a factor? Because I don't think it's a big jump to think that those communities could also reflect a political orientation, and thus, if even unintentionally, this could lead to gerrymandering by concentration, which has certainly been done in the past across the country. Those are my concerns. I hope some of those questions could be answered at some time, and again, direct the committee to work with the communities, especially in regard to the census issues and item E. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, we will turn it back over to the Phoenix location. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I have 3 more speakers in Scottsdale. Don Markowski, Bradley Newman, and Lael Weston. Thank you. Then following that, it should be Dela Mangold. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for holding this meeting. My name is Don Markowski. I'm an elected PC in LD 18, but I am here representing myself. I currently reside in Northwest Chandler, and currently this is LD 9, which has been referred to as the donut hole from the last redistricting 10 years ago. And looking at the grid map, I'm glad to see that that donut hole has been changed because, as you folks know, the donut hole encompassed parts of Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, Gilbert, our Tukey area, and I didn't feel it was a very well-drawn map, and I know a lot of people did agree with me on that. So hopefully the new grid map will reflect a closer community of interest. And I would like to see Chandler as well as Gilbert having their own CD. And from what I can see on the numbers, that population very closely would equate to getting their own congressman. Secondly, on the LD, living in LD 18, I'm also currently in with, as a resident of Chandler, I'm in with Gilbert, South Tempe, and Phoenix, and it's separated community of interest by I-10 as well as 101, and I feel that area could be compacted a lot better also. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Hello, members of the commission. Thank you for giving us time today. My name is Brad Newman. I live at Desert Mountain at the very north end of Phoenix, of Scottsdale, up against the Tonto National Forest. So I'd be referring to the proposed CD2, if you could pull that map up. And so really referring to Cave Creek, Carefree, and Desert Mountain, I believe that the separation, right now we're in CD6, which really includes us with Scottsdale and really the Phoenix metro area, and our interests are covered in that way. Under the new proposal, it really separates us out, and really across that whole northern tier, separates us out and puts us with everything northeast of there all the way up to the Four Corners area. So not only does that kind of take us out of the Phoenix area and the interest there and the considerations there, but I think with the population there, it also overweights against those rural communities, which a lady at one of the other sites mentioned disenfranchises them. And I think that's a valid concern. If you look at the overall design of the current proposal, a lot of those districts come into the outskirts of the Phoenix area, and those populations then could overweight the votes in those rural areas and the considerations there. So I think that's an important strategic consideration for the board. I tried to go into the thing and come up with my own design here, and was not technically able to do that, but I made me appreciate all the work that went into this so far, because you've dealt with all the easy variables. Now you have the variable of human input, so which makes it even more difficult at this point. But what I would ask is that we re-include those areas into the Phoenix area, and I did see one design on the website there by, let me just get it here. Bear with me a moment. There was a design by JGABELN on the website, and actually that design, it puts us into a proposed CD1, but actually that basically includes kind of the North Phoenix area on up into Desert Mountain, because when you get to Desert Mountain, Cave Creek, there's a mountain range there, and then there's a Tonto National Forest, and it becomes rural very quickly, and so the interests of that area are very different than everything north of there, and would ask that we make that consideration. And I think it makes sense because Arizona is kind of Phoenix metro area and then Arizona. And there are very different interests there in the design. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
You know, I just want to commiserate that the commissioners also have had difficulty with some of the technology. We're all in it together. And if anybody cannot submit your map electronically, I know this sounds so simplistic, but you're welcome to draw a map, print something. You could take a photograph and send it as attachment. You can send it to us now. You could put it in an envelope. Our mapping team literally tracks all of these maps. And even if it's not included in electronic overlay, view, the commissioners see every visual, every narrative. So make sure we get the data, whether or not you're having technological challenges or not.
Thank you for that. I do have it here on PowerPoint slides, and I could submit that both paper and electronically. I'm happy to do that here at the break. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deela Mangold. I have been a homeowner in McCormick Ranch for 26 years and have been volunteering in many different areas to do good for Arizona and Scottsdale and Phoenix area. It includes dog fostering, Family Promise Homeless Shelter for families, St. Mary's Food Bank, and the other IRC, the International Rescue Committee. I appreciate the work you're doing. I'm having a hard time focusing on the maps, and I had not seen them before. It appears to me that you are trying to really make my district, LD 23 and Congressional District 6, a little more competitive, because certainly in the past, there's no question about who's going to win, and they are the people who don't represent my interests. I worked very hard for Proposition 208. My state senator and state representative have voted in awful roundabouts to take the funding out of the law that was passed by a significant majority, which means that they're not responding even to what the majority of the people want. It's my belief that quality education is one of the first things that our legislators should be ensuring for the betterment of our communities. I also don't like the bills that they put out there regularly, more guns for more people everywhere. That's not sane. It's just feel like I don't have a voice. So I thank you for trying to make our district more competitive. It looks like you have addressed some of the issues of the diversity between North Scottsdale and South Scottsdale and the Pima-Maricopa County the Pima-Maricopa Reservation and the Yavapai Reservation, who have also been in 23. I am concerned that some of these districts are a split between urban and rural, but I know there's kind of only so much you can do. But I do think that we should have a district where the same person isn't reelected for life. We're not like that in this country. We're diverse. And right now we have legislators representing me who I have never agreed with for over 10 years, and they're still there, and they'll be there till they drop dead. And I don't want that to happen. So thank you very much for your efforts in a fair and competitive redistricting.
Thank you. If I could just do a quick follow-up of the previous speaker. No.
Not me?
Not you. But I appreciate your comments. I do appreciate your comments. The previous speaker, we have on the screen an example. I wanted to know if this was the map that you were referring to when you said you had taken a look at a map.
That is correct. That is the map that I was looking at that was proposed on the website. And I was glad that was there because it kind of, in spirit, it explains what I'm saying here is that really the design should be that the Phoenix metro area kind of has its own congressional considerations, and then there is rural Arizona that has its considerations. I realize there are many, many variables, and there's quotas and requirements to make all the districts relatively even, so it's impossible to get a perfect solution. But I think this covers that in spirit as to what I was speaking about.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, speakers, and we'll go back to Sierra Vista with Alex.
Thank you, Marie. I have 5 speakers left. I'm going to call up the first 3 right now. Yvonne Mayer, Joanne Carthers, and Bob Levline. Yvonne Mayer.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I live in Hereford, a rural community, and I am a precinct committeeman. At our first redistricting meeting, I spoke of the importance of communities of interest. LD 14, as it currently exists, meets this criteria. It does not need to be changed. One segment of communities of interest I did not hear mentioned until today is retirees. Currently, the Cochise County portion of CD2 has significant retirement communities in Sierra Vista, Benson, Bisbee, Tombstone, and Wilcox, all small cities. CD2 would be well served by adding eastern Santa Cruz County, including Green Valley and Sahuarita, which encompass large retirement communities. Again, small cities, rural area, communities of interest. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joanne Carruthers. I'm retired and I live in Hereford. And the part of Hereford I live in, I wouldn't exactly call totally rural. I live in a community of maybe 1 acre homes. I would call it suburban. I have to say that I have been in Arizona a long time. I was born in Tucson, grew up in Tucson, educated in Tucson, and graduated from the University of Arizona. I taught school for 10 years, 8 years of those in the barrio in Tucson. I stayed home for a few years to take care of my kids, and then I went back and got a degree in industrial engineering and spent the rest of my career working mostly on Fort Huachuca as a contractor, doing really quite technical work. So I've been around for a long time. I saw Tucson grow from being smaller than Sierra Vista area is now to you know what it is. And I used to go to Phoenix, and guess what? You left Tempe and went to Mesa and went to Scottsdale. They were all separate. You know, you knew when you left one, not so much now. Okay, enough about me. I think Arizona is an amazing state. I've loved living here. I visited other parts of the country, but this is where I want to be. It's where I've been, and it's where I would like to stay, and my children and grandchildren are here. So I have a lot at stake in this state. It's a diverse state. I would put it up there as one of the most beautiful states in the country, from canyons to mountains, to deserts, to magnificent saguaro cactus. That said, its people are equally diverse, and I would very much like to see that reflected in our districts, this diversity. Diversity is important because we are a diverse country, a purple state, and I would like to see a good deal of competitiveness in our districts so that nobody feels that they are always on the losing end. You would like to think you at least have a chance to win. And having worked for a number of years in the barrio, I feel very strongly that our minority communities, our communities of color, their voices need to be heard. They should not be buried or diluted to where they don't come through. So I think I have pretty well covered it. I would like to see competitive districts that reflect some of the diversity of the country. And I would also like to see it following constitutional and Voting Rights Act precepts. And I thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Levline. I live in Sierra Vista, and I have property in Santa Cruz County. I know you have a difficult task. Maybe I'll just confuse you at a higher level. I'm really for homogeneous districting with people with fairly like interests, as other people have stated. If I just took Cochise County out of everything and made it a state of the Union, it would be almost as big as Connecticut. It would be bigger than Rhode Island. It'd be bigger than Delaware. And what would be interesting about that state, being very close to Connecticut, we're not that populous. We're closer to Wyoming in population. So our interests are very diverse versus population. I know your charter is to look at population, but as practicable. So having property in Sierra Vista and Santa Cruz County, I look at Legislative District 7, and I go, gosh, I'm more into Cochise County, and I know the legislative district goes all the way up to Utah and to the border, so there's a heck of a lot of diversity with Native Americans up in the northeast corner and us folks down here. So, if I was in the Nogales area in that district, I'd have very different concerns than if I was in Cochise County. But Sierra Vista will now be with Santa Cruz County, which I would have a differing opinion on recommendations to my legislature. So that's my 2 cents worth, and have a good day, and good luck on your job.
Our next two speakers are Matt Perilli and Raphael Ely.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you again. We first met in Nogales on the 5th of August, where I spoke with you about my Sonoyta, Elgin, and Canelo area of the eastern edge of Santa Cruz County and what we needed to have done. I left you with a hard copy of what our proposal was. I hope you still have it. On the subject of the current grid map, it looks eerily and frighteningly like the grid map that we had in 2011. I hope that the final outcome will not be anything like what happened in 2011. What happened then, as I said to you before, was competitive districts ruled everything to the detriment of communities of interest, which is listed higher on the hierarchy of your tasks. And I've worked in government and with politicians long enough to know that those hierarchies don't just fall into place by themselves. They're driven into a priority. So if you do nothing else, and I think you're on the right track, but trust me, I believe you are, that communities of interest is of your higher order. Regarding population densities and equalities, the wordage says to the extent practicable. And what you're hearing is a lot of folks, including me and people that live around me, that say, wait a minute, let's not take that as ironclad. Let's be a little more flexible about that. Why? Because communities of interest give you a voice. Right now, the eastern edge of Santa Cruz County, the conservatives have no voice. We have a totally Democrat representatives in the state legislature, and one of the House members in that district in the U.S. Congress is also a Democrat. So in a sense, it denies us reputation. In terms of the communities of interest, let me reiterate to you that my brothers and sisters in this room from Cochise County are closer relatives than the west side of Santa Cruz County, by all the things that have already been mentioned by a couple of their speakers in particular. You know, and once again, as far as population goes, if you take to heart what I gave you on the 5th of August, you'll remember that I said the total population within that recommended boundary was 1,500 people, period. So it's, it should not be a big deal. Thank you very much for the time, and I hope you're having fun still.
Members of the IRC, I'm Raphael Ely. I go by Ray. Just so you all know, I'm the chairman of the party in Legislative District 14, and I'm also the second vice chairman of the Arizona Republican Party. I'm speaking for myself because there's a tremendous amount of diversity inside the party, and everyone will not agree about the same things. So I want you to know that I live in unincorporated Pima County on a private well. I own a ranch property in rural Cochise. I'm a retired aerospace worker. I have numerous connections to military and law enforcement. I've seen the recently released grid maps. I understand they represent only a neutral starting point, but I must say, compared to what I would like to see representing my communities of interest, they have a long way to go. I believe you understand that. Therefore, my purpose in appearing today is to reiterate the importance of following all the criteria in the law in making the final maps, thereby making so-called competitive districts not necessary and not found. The criteria are compliance with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, prohibiting splitting of minority areas, equal population, compact and contiguous districts, reflecting the communities of interest within them, and using recognized boundaries as district borders. My interests support communities like rural suburban lifestyle, personal responsibility, individual rights, private property rights, water rights, mining, agriculture, ranching, wine production, public safety and law enforcement, religious faith, the military and aerospace defense industry, retirement communities, hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation. These communities are found in most areas outside the city of Tucson and Pima County, especially unincorporated land on private or community wells, plus most of the counties of Cochise, Graham, Greenlee, and Santa Cruz County east of the mountains and the I-19 corridor, including the communities of Sahuarita, Vail, Corona de Tucson, Rita Ranch, Dragoon, Morenci, Safford, San Simon, the Agricultural Valley from Wilcox to McNeil, Duncan, Sonoyta, Elgin, Patagonia, Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Fort Huachuca, Sierra Vista, Raytheon, Tucson, and surrounding communities, and Saddlebrook and Quail Creek. I urge you to fashion districts that keep these communities together and fully represented. Generally, my community likes LD 14 as it is. Please keep Cochise County together. It is a unique, ruggedly individualistic, free-thinking rural western community that must not be split. Please comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and place Nogales excuse me, in the I-19 corridor of Santa Cruz County in their own districts. None of the new CD2 should be in the city of Tucson at all. The city should confine, Freudian slip, sorry about that. The city should continue its or confine its influence to one CD of its own. Likewise, LDs in or near the city of Tucson should be either suburban or urban in character and not mixed as possible. God bless you in your hard work. I wish you all every success under difficult circumstances, and thank you. And again, I hope you're having some fun doing this. Thank you again.
If I could just follow up for a second. You had some very specific recommendations in your comments. If you can be sure to submit those, if you want to submit them on paper, or if you want to submit them on the map, but you were very specific in naming communities and some boundaries. So that's the kind of thing that would be helpful for us as we move forward.
Okay, I certainly will do that. I've also submitted written comments already. I'll do that. Thank you.
I have two more speakers, Brandon Martin and Lourdes Fernandez.
Hello, can everyone hear me on the commission?
Yes.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you to the commissioners for the job that you're doing and the ability to speak here today and presenting to the community. My name is Brandon Martin, and I am not an elected official, but I have run for office now in my third time running. So I was the nominee in this district last time in CD2, and I've been all over the district and talked to many people. And my concern today is that Cochise County is kept intact, not only in the congressional district, but also the legislative district. I have talked to people all over the county, from Sierra Vista to Benson, Benson to Wilcox, Wilcox to Douglas, and back up to Sierra Vista. And we are a county that I believe serves the community of interest portion. We have ranchers, farmers, and we have unique water issues that have all been brought up by other individual speakers. A lot of what is being said today is talking about diversity and equality in the districts, and you could argue that some districts are heavily weighted one way politically compared to others. Here in LD 14, where I believe we are currently well represented as a community, you could say it leans more conservative, where in LD 2, just next door, it seems that they are consistently represented by more Democrat representation, as well as CD3 compared to CD2. I would urge the commission as much as possible to try to keep Cochise County intact, and I think the current lines for the legislative district and congressional districts serve our community well and may need to be adjusted slightly to incorporate more of the recent population numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Lourdes Fernandez. I was born and raised, educated in Arizona. I am a little bit distressed by the fact that, having traveled around the world, worked around most of the United States and Canada, returning home and finding that what I'm returning home to is there's an effort to change it. Those of us that live in Cochise County are here because of the nature and the culture of Cochise County. We're basically looking at a rural area. To even consider lumping us in with larger cities is an injustice and a disgrace. I am a member of a minority. And the reason why I'm here is not to be lumped with other minorities. It's not to be lumped with other types of people. I'm here because of the individualism and the ruggedness of Cochise County. And if you succeed in redistricting us so that we disappear into a Tucson or a Nogales, you're doing us an injustice. Please keep Cochise County intact. We like what we see here. We like the diversity of people. We like the diversity of businesses. And we're here because it's a rural community. And please don't do away with that. Thank you.
That is all the speakers I have in Sierra Vista. I'm going to hand it over to Scottsdale.
Thank you, Alex. I have 6 speakers remaining, and I'll call the next 3 up. Ted Hizerat, Cynthia Couture, and Nancy Ordowski.
Hello, everybody. My name's Ted Hizerat. I am a resident of North Central Phoenix, so that would be currently CD9, LD 28, kind of the Sunny Slope area, if you will. Just a couple quick comments for today. I want to echo what some of the other speakers have said about the necessity of competitive districts. It is, in my belief, not a hierarchy in the state constitution. They are labeled A through F, not 1 through 6. There's no subservient condition there or requirement. And if you look at Arizona, we're very much a purple state. We're not a blue state. We're not a red state. We are a state that sort of pivots a little bit on independence, and competitiveness will give independence a voice. So that is my first comment. Second, just my personal community of interest. If you look at the top of LD1 there's the mountain preserve. I believe that the preserves themselves are somewhat of their own community of interest. It's a recreational area that people enjoy. It's an area where there's a lot of communities of faith. One of the largest synagogues is adjacent to the preserves, in addition, several different churches of all types of faith, and they all draw from around the mountains. So I would be interested in perhaps a radius of a couple miles around that mountain preserve. And then my third point I'd like to bring up today relates to the origin of the maps. As I understand it, the maps are, the point of reference to start from is the Township Meridian. My understanding is the Township Meridian is where the Salt River and the Gila Rivers come together. It's out in Avondale, not at McDowell Road and 19th Avenue. I don't know that that intersection has any significance whatsoever to the surveying of townships or sections in the state of Arizona. So I would be interested in feedback from the commission to understand why that particular intersection was chosen instead of the actual Township Meridian. So that's it. Thank you very much.
We're going to actually have our mapping consultants answer that question.
Do you want to, we can move this down. Yeah.
Or here, just come sit here for a moment.
Thank you for your comments. With regards to the Township Median being located on the redistricting maps where it is with the intersection of 19th Avenue, Grand and McDowell, thank you. That is historically with the Independent Redistricting Commission, the place that they have started. I understand that the Meridian, the Township Meridian, is where you had stated. However, we went with the history of the commission and where they started on the grid maps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, commissioners. I'm not representing anybody but myself. I'm not that important. But I wanted to relate just a little historical anecdote to you to tell you why I'm so glad that you're looking at providing competitive districts. My name is Cynthia Couture. I'm a teacher, 43 years, retired from the Fountain Hills School District, and I'm a 17-year resident of Arizona's LD 23. It encompasses mostly Scottsdale and Fountain Hills presently. My strongest wish is that the commission makes Fountain Hills Scottsdale District competitive. It needs to be competitive so that our senator and representatives will be responsive to all its residents and to guard against the extremism that seems to be pervasive in Arizona and brings down a lot of scorn upon us. In the last decade, no Democratic legislators have been elected in LD 23. Here's my incident. When I first moved to Fountain Hills, I was told it was useless to even vote if you are not Republican. On my first day in town, as I entered the local Ace hardware store, I was told by a man brandishing a Republican petition that I now lived in a Republican town and I had best change my party affiliation. That was depressing to me. Since then, I have followed the politics of my area. I have seen that even the strongest Democratic candidates have no chance of winning against even the weakest Republican candidates. Only one side of the political arena is listened to, and that side seems to be very arrogant about it. I've been told in person by one of my representatives that Democrats are only given lip service in LD 23, both in the legislature and in our LD. So I am thankful that you are giving voices to all Arizona voters. I'm glad you're creating districts that are competitive. I think a competitive district will bring out the best in Arizona and make our state great again. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for the job you're doing. It's a huge task. My name is Nancy Ordowski, and to make everyone aware so that you know that where I am, I'm the first vice chair and the first of Maricopa County Republicans and the first vice chair for LD 23 Republicans. I'm not here to speak about diversity, the parties. What I'm really looking at is the landscape of each one of these districts. And I think that it's vitally important that we're aware. We can make any map in Maricopa County come out with the right population. But I think it's very important that we keep our boundaries between main streets and that we don't take any one district too far east or west all the way across all of the borders and the boundaries. Because all of these, most of the cities, the towns, the communities around Maricopa are good-sized districts. Obviously, Phoenix is huge. And the more that we can keep the districts within one congressional district, it really is helpful to the voters because it becomes very confusing when they don't recognize that they may be in one legislative district, but in a different congressional district. And so all of those processes make a huge difference in dealing with any party. Thank you.
And my final three speakers are Daniel Schwartz, Patty O'Neill, and Karen Garrett.
I want to thank you all for your efforts. I know this is a difficult task. Unfortunately, I'm not yet had the time to wear my hat as a data scientist and look at the maps, so I'll have to make comments of a general nature. I'm Dan Schwartz. I came to Arizona to live in the desert east of Apache Junction in '98, and I've been living in South Scottsdale since 2004. With my wife, we raised 2 kids here, and I've worked in the communications technology since 1993, starting with Motorola and moving on to other Arizona companies, sharing the leadership of a group of 130 very talented Arizona engineers and scientists. Since making my home in Scottsdale, I've been driven to understand more about how the state and local governments work, ultimately motivating me to volunteer for multiple Get Out the Vote campaigns. The same curiosity has also led me to participate in Maricopa County hand count for the 2020 general election. While working to get to know the voting neighbors, I have been seeing the full range of people, from the peak of affluence in Arcadia and PV to those who are barely getting by in the Yaqui community and nearby communities in South Scottsdale. Over the course of time, I've received a number of responses when I've gone around the neighborhood like that. They range from those who enthusiastically introduced me to their newly eligible voters, to a lot of blank indifference, which is fine, and on to increasingly outright hostility. What concerns me and what I hope the commission most is the increasing hostility that I've seen both in talking to people in my neighborhood and from the armed and banner-carrying protesters in front of the county elections department in the days following the election. It simply is not right for diligent election workers to be fearful for simply doing their jobs, nor for volunteers to have to pass through security in a concertina wired to a secure parking lot to participate in democracy. To this end, we have to ensure that the extremists who are chosen by the few during the primary elections can be rejected during the general election if they do not speak for the community at large. Obviously, solution to this is to maximize the number of competitive districts, protecting against the extremes from either side of the aisle, as is the charter of the commission. I recognize not the only one. I recognize the task for the commission is a Promethean one, and that if you do your jobs well, you're going to hear most loudly from the most vocal among us, and they're going to be angry, but so be it. As we debate the boundaries, I'd like to implore you to reject the words of the likes of Paul Weyrich, who famously said, "I don't want everyone to vote," and instead ensure that every community in this rich fabric, which is Arizona, will have its voice heard. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and IRC members. Thank you for the first draft of the district and congressional maps. I would like to address district maps. I live in North Scottsdale, and I would like to focus on the community of interest that I have identified as Scottsdale School District. By keeping all of SUSD together, we can have a proper and unified representation. The kids lose out when we break up school districts. I know many school districts are split between legislative districts. However, by keeping SUSD in one LD, you also have the opportunity of keeping most of the city of Scottsdale in one LD. So you kill two birds with one stone. As for congressional districts, I think it is important to draw lines that represent the needs of rural versus populated areas. We are doing both a disservice when we don't keep that in mind. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you for all of your hard work. My name is Karen Garrett. I have been very active in this process. 10 years ago, I was one of those privileged to basically attend all local meetings that you and participated and also spoke. I'm quite disappointed that we don't have a better turnout. I'm hoping that it's because of COVID and that many, many, many people will send you their comments online because that is very, very needed. And I plead that people do that on every side of this issue. 10 years ago, Scottsdale was split. I mean, and at this point when I spoke, it was similar to now. And I got reassured over and over again, Karen, don't worry about it. It's going to be changed. And I hope that that happens this time because you have literally decimated Scottsdale into three pieces, both legislatively and congressionally. And you have also, I live at 8706 East Chama Road. And on that map, I am one block west of Pima, and I am a half a mile north, and it cuts me away from all of my current people, a lot of my current people that I deal with in legislative District 6 and 23. We're just thrown to the wind, scattered. And I'm not going to try to get too much more emotional because I'm hoping that it will happen the same time this time as last time, where you restore the integrity of Scottsdale. Another thing I want to say that in 6, I am now currently in 2 by this map, and I am split from others who are on 1. 2 is now rural, and 1, which is Fountain Hills, is now urban. And in legislative 23, I am in 3, which is urban, and Fountain Hills is in rural. So you've also decimated us by that. You've split us up into rural versus urban, urban versus rural, and so it's a mess. So I hope that you clean this up and that everybody out there that is living in my neighborhood and in the circumstances will realize that community as interest is as important. And when you talk about Fountain Hills, I often say there are certain things, if we all got what we wanted in the city that we live in, the map, you could never make a map. And I have often said, well, then you have to move, but that isn't very nice to say, but we have to be reasonable here. Thank you for your help and your support.
And I just would like to, again, reiterate, if you can submit your comments with some specifics, with the lines and all that you're interested in, that would be very helpful.
Thank you, speakers. Madam Chair, members of the commission, that concludes our speakers.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you from all of the commissioners for being here, for providing comments at all the different venues. We appreciate that. And I would like to remind you to please go onto our website and submit any comments and maps that you can. We encourage you to do that so that we don't have to try to interpret the words as much as we know exactly what your interests are. And again, for those of you who are not comfortable with the mapping tool, as our chairwoman said, please submit on paper. Any comments, be as specific as you can so we can look at that. We will be looking at everything that is submitted. So we want to be able to be sure that we understand exactly what your interests are. Please also, we recognize we didn't have lots and lots of people today, but we did conclude a very successful tour of the state over the summer months where we had hundreds of people, and we will be doing this again. But what we do is encourage your friends, neighbors, anybody you know, to please share their thoughts. Even if they can't attend a meeting, we want to hear from everybody. So please do help us out by getting the word out. Anyone can submit online anytime. There's no requirement to attend one of these meetings to be heard. So please spread the word. And we again want to thank you for your time. And with that, we adjourn the meeting.